I'm Sam Connell. I'm one of the librarians at New Canaan Library. We are so excited to have Caryn Antonini back here with us today to teach us some more really terrific cooking tips and to show us some wonderful recipes. So welcome. I want to introduce our wonderful presenter today. Caryn Antonini, through her global experiences, multiple languages, and cooking skills, brings the world to your table with quick and easy recipes, tips, and ideas. Caryn grew up surrounded by friends and guests from overseas, sparking a lifelong interest in languages, cultures, and travel. Both in her childhood and later on, she traveled extensively, living abroad during her global entrepreneurial enterprises and cultivating recipes. Caryn is a regular on-air contributor, host, and the producer of a 30-minute cooking show and co-producer, host of Town Dish, which is a TV series honoring first responders right here in New Canaan. Thank you so much, Caryn, for joining us. What are you going to cook for us today?
Hi, Sam. Thank you so much. So we are going to make some amazing gingerbread cupcakes with a Swiss meringue frosting. I thought I would go ahead and make some peppermint bark. You can also make them into little snowflakes. I have some molds. You can do whatever you want, whatever you have at home. And then if we can squeeze in the toffee at the end, I would love to do that because it's a great gift. And I can even give you little tips and ideas on how to wrap, how to present. So let's go ahead and get started so we can get through some of this. So I have preheated my oven to 350 degrees. We're gonna start with the gingerbread cupcakes. This is a great recipe. It smells so good in here right now already because I have prepped. So to get started, you are going to want to take some butter, about a cup of butter, and always have this at room temperature. Your eggs, I have 4 eggs, have all your ingredients really at room temperature. There's a cup of buttermilk, there's some flour, then the brown sugar, I think I said molasses, and a bunch of your spices, which I'll talk about as we add them in. So I am going to go ahead and add my butter. It is softened. It makes it a lot fluffier. Your cakes, when you have things, especially the eggs, at room temperature. And of course the butter, it's just a lot easier to go ahead and blend with your sugars. So I am going to add this in here. And smelling already like the holidays. And it's nice and cold again today. So I don't know if that's nice, but it is, it's cold. So the ginger makes up for it, this nice ginger smell. So, okay, so I have my butter in here. I'm going to go ahead and add my brown sugar. And I think I realized that I may have just given Sam the ingredient list. So afterwards, I'm going to shoot over the full recipe with all the instructions. So in case I go too quickly here, it's pretty simple, but then you'll have it for future use if you're not cooking along with me today. So I have my blender and I'm just going to blend the butter and the sugar until it's light. You really want to make this, sorry for the noise, try to talk over this, but you want to try to get this batter nice and light. So there's a lot of flour in it. We'll go ahead and just blend this. And the brown sugar gives it a little darker color, of course, the cupcake itself, but it's also a little more moist. That's why I use here, it's pretty light. Okay, so that's why I like to use the brown sugar as well, instead of white sugar here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add my cup of molasses. And then I'm going to beat this for about 4 minutes. Again, you just want to get it really light. You'll see it, the batter itself will be nice and light and it makes for great cupcakes or even muffins. As I'd written, if you checked out the ingredient list or the recipe, it makes for a really great little muffin too. I mean, you can have it with some coffee or tea, delicious. Okay, so stick that in there. I'm gonna get this going for about 4 minutes and then I'll just show you. It's just light. This is pretty basic, really easy. Make sure you always get the edges of your bowl You're not left with a clump of molasses somewhere at the bottom. Of course, we probably have some good bakers in the audience, but just in case, this is really easy. Let me get my another knife. Have some butter there on the top already. There we go. Okay. So just about 3 or 4 minutes till it's really light. I was trying to find a new blender, but I think the supply chain is kind of killing me. They're not available till February, so this one's a little slow, but it'll do the job today. So I'm just timing it about 3 minutes. So it's nice and light. And the frosting, I'm going to show you how to make, obviously, right after this, after our cupcakes are finished. But I'm choosing to do the Swiss meringue frosting because I feel like it just is nice and light. There's so many sweets, and of course it's a sweet topping, but it's not as heavy. But you could certainly go ahead and do like a cream cheese frosting. And for any of you who were here last time, for my other recipes with that I do the red velvet, the black red velvet cake, that cream cheese frosting, just keep it normal color. You could certainly add it to these cupcakes, and it would be delicious. If you want something a little more dense, that would also work really, really well. But something about this, plus I'm doing a whole winter wonderland table, and it just looks really pretty. Plus the sugar tends to crystallize a little bit on the top, and it adds a nice little crunch to it. Let's see, this is probably just about right. I won't waste all the time doing this today. So I've prepped and pre-made some for us, but you get the idea. It's nice and light. It's a great color. They're so pretty. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna let that go. And whoopsie, just spilled my little ingredients and they survived. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and add my eggs. Let's see, I can do 1 or 2 at a time. They're at room temperature. Again, it makes it really light and fluffy. I'll do 2 eggs at a time. And make sure to blend these. It does get a little bit, it kind of separates the batter a little bit, but they will blend in. So just make sure everything is really thoroughly blended here. Oops, I've already made a mess, but that's okay. My kitchen looks a little too clean right now. It's baking season. This is the high season, so usually tons of things going on, which you'll see. Okay, so we got 2 in, 2 more. There we go. Okay, these guys. It's getting really nice and light here. There's about 3 cups of flour and then all our spices. So this will make about 36 cupcakes, which is great. So if you want to go ahead and half the recipe, if you don't need that many, feel free to do that. It works just as well, but it's kind of nice to have. Okay, so that looks great. You can see that's nice and light already. Hope you can see that. So I've got that. I'm just gonna grab a paper towel for my hands. And then I'm going to sift my flour and spices. So oops, put this back in here, add all of my flour right into my sifter. And then my spices. So normal spices are totally fine at the market. Obviously, they have them all. I love to go to the spice market. I'm trying to find one around here. If anyone knows, let me know. But There's one when I go visit my parents in Florida, actually. There's one at their green market, and it's incredible. It's really great. So I usually tend to stock up, and it just gives, I feel like the flavor is so amazing. So I have my ginger. Of course, you have all the measurements on your recipe card. So I'm just going to add all the dry ingredients right in here. Baking soda, salt, go ahead and add it. And we have my cloves and my cinnamon. There's my cinnamon. It smells so good. When they're really fresh, it just kind of like kicks it up a little bit. So even if you're just making the muffins, you might want to get the spices, because the flavor is incredible. So, okay, so get rid of these guys so we have some room. And I'm going to sift all that together and then alternate with the buttermilk. The buttermilk gives this a really great, like slightly tangy flavor, and just rounds out all the spices. So it's not tangy, but it just, the batter, like the actual muffin tastes really good with that buttermilk. So here we go. Done. This is pretty easy, especially when you go ahead and prep. I like to do my shopping really a couple days before, at least, get everything I need and try to lay it out. Otherwise, it is a little bit exhausting, but it's just, I think this is a really great time of year to go ahead and bake and make all your treats or candies. And then you can give them as gifts too. So someone's getting some cupcakes today. Not sure who yet, but they will get some. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and just add gradually at your low speed. You're just going to add this flour mixture. So add it just about enough. Alternate with your buttermilk, and then just keep blending just until it's blended. You don't overdo it. Just make sure. And again, make sure that on the bottom of your bowl, if you want to use a spatula, you can see if it's all blended. So you're not left with a little clump of flour at the bottom. A bit more buttermilk. A bit more. And these little cupcakes, muffins, you're going to want to line your cupcake tins like this. I'm just going to do one to show you. But you're just going to line them with your liners. I'm doing silver just because I am doing my Winter Wonderland. So I'm using all the whites and silver tones. But anything you like, obviously, like, go ahead, and if you're not using the liners, make sure to grease them completely. It just makes it so much easier. Or your silicone molds, if you have those too. Those work well. And then almost done here. Get to the good stuff. Okay, oops, I guess I'll add all that. And almost done with this flour. And these don't take a lot of time to bake, which is really nice. So I tend to bake one at a time, one cookie sheet or one cupcake tin at a time, because I like to make sure that they bake evenly in my oven. So it's only about 15 to 18 minutes, which is really great. So it's a pretty fast treat to whip up as well. So it's underneath one last little bit, and then get going. Okay. So you can see now that this batter is really light, nice and light and fluffy, a great color. It smells incredible. I hope everyone makes these. They're really good. So, okay, before splattering everything, wasn't wearing my apron. I'm gonna take that out and remove those guys, my hand, and then show you. So I'm going to just fill up my little cups about 3/4 of the way. And these guys are not gonna rise a lot. These little cupcakes, they don't rise a ton. So you're just gonna fill them up about 3/4 of the way. And that should bake for about, of course, depending on your oven, about 15 minutes. So if not, just use your little cake tester. Oops, let's get all fancy there. I'm gonna just put it down. And then just cook and test, make sure. They'll be a little bit cracked on the top. I'm gonna show you the finished product in a second, but I don't think I need to show you all the little, how to fill these cups. You get the idea. So if you do tend to fill them a little bit higher, then just bake them a little longer, but generally it's about 15. So just check around the 15-minute mark. Make sure they're not going too much, getting overly cooked. So I will set that aside for now. You know how to do the rest. And then just, of course, let them, once they come out of the oven, I'm gonna put this over here. I don't want to burn these guys today. I have a lot of moving parts. So they are gonna come out. You're gonna let them cool completely before you frost them, of course. And they'll look just like this. So slightly cracked on the top. They are so good. And now I'll leave them right there so we can see them. See, they don't rise very much, but it's good because you can add your frosting. So I'll move this out and bring in my ingredients for the Swiss meringue. Okay, got my, so you're gonna need, for this part, you're gonna need a saucepan about this size because it makes a lot of frosting. So I have my ingredients here. I have my 1 cup of sugar. I'm just gonna add everything except for the vanilla at the very end right into my pot, into my saucepan. Oops. Add this in here. I've got my water, my egg whites, and my salt and cream of tartar was right in there. And I'm gonna get my, beaters again, some clean beaters. I hope these fit in. Oops. See, there we go. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is just turn this on to like a low medium heat. And this is the difference between a 7-minute frosting and the Swiss meringue. You heat it up and it goes a little bit quicker. So you're just gonna blend once that starts going, wait for that to heat up, and just blend it until stiff peaks form. So let's let that heat just a tiny bit. Then you'll take it off the heat and add your vanilla right in there. So I'm actually gonna get this started. Sorry, more blending. But I wanted to show you, it doesn't take too long, but I really wanted to show you, it's kind of like, I think I made the meringue ghosts. If anyone was here in October with us, I made those, and you'll see that it doesn't seem like it's gonna form into stiff peaks and then it suddenly does. So you're just gonna wanna get that heated. You can turn it up a little. My burners sometimes are a little slow and then they take off. Okay. And then just beat it. So when you're measuring out your ingredients, one little tip that you may or may not know is when you're getting your egg whites together, it calls for 2 egg whites. I always crack them separately. So just in case you have a perfect egg white in a bowl and then you add some more, but you get a little bit of the yolk, then it's all ruined because it won't rise. So, you won't get those stiff peaks. So make sure to just measure those out on their own, and then you're good to go. So this is already looking really good. And again, this doesn't take very much time at all. It's great. Great little recipe. It's still like a 7-minute frosting, but I like this method because it combines all the ingredients and it keeps all the sugars, it kind of melts everything, and it dissolves some of those sugar crystals, so it's not quite as like crunchy. Although if you put it in the fridge, it gets that little crunch on the outside, which is kind of nice. But it's a much smoother consistency, which I really like. So you can see it's already getting there. You don't want to turn it too high because the sugar will kind of burn on the bottom or kind of stick to the pot, not burn, but you've got the blender going, so it's going to make sure it's going to get all that sugar, but just make sure to monitor your heat. You can see that it's already forming. Probably time this out, just so we know. But you can also just kind of use your eyes here because you'll know when it starts to form the really stiff peaks. But if you haven't made it, go ahead and just go for the 5 to 7 minutes. It's okay. Looks like little ribbons in the pan. Let's see. And then I'm going to show you, I might make a fancier design on my cupcakes today. You can either just take, when you're ready to frost, you can either take a big spoon and just put a dollop right on top of your cupcake, or you can get one of these piping bags. These are really easy to use and pretty inexpensive, really pretty cheap. You can get them anywhere. And you're just gonna cut a hole at the bottom for your tip. And I might use this fancier tip or just one with a hole. Hopefully you can see this. Just has a circular hole. I might use a little fancier just to see what that looks like. Here we go. So this is looking pretty good. And then we just make a little design on top of the cupcake. And it's fun to practice. You can look online, they have all these tips if you're interested. They have different tips and they'll show you which ones make which designs. So it's kind of fun if you want to try something different. All right, we are getting there. Just want to make sure you get those stiff peaks so that your frosting doesn't fall. So I'll do a couple of these for you. I'll show you what they look like as I'm doing this, just so you don't get bored. So here is a very simple little design that I used on the top. And I love that it's like glossy. It just looks so pretty, I think. And it's really delicious too. So this is what they will look like shortly. Okay, so let's see, I didn't start this until the stiff peaks. So it's starting to look, this is what I mean by stiff peaks. It's getting there. You still have to go a little bit. A little bit longer here. And again, just monitor your heat so nothing sticks to the bottom of your saucepan. And if it sticks a little, it's fine. You just put it under hot water later with a little cascade and it will come right off. I've learned from experience. So almost there. Okay, I think this looks really good. Okay, that is great. These are really stiff peaks. So take this away, get rid of my timer, and I am going to remove that from the heat, stir in my vanilla, and then just make sure that is all incorporated right into your frosting. Feel that on the bottom just a little bit. There we go. This looks great. Really good. Okay, I'm gonna use a bigger spoon though to put that in my piping bag. And I'm gonna use the fancy, check that out. I'm gonna show you the finished products because they're so pretty. But this was just really simple. You can do whatever you want. Here are my little cupcakes. I'll get them out of the way so you can see what I'm doing here. So that was the simpler one. This, drop it right in. See, actually, it might have to, this guy's a little bit bigger, so just snip a tiny bit off the end of my bag. Let's see, you can always cut more, but you don't want to cut too much because then it'll come out. There we go. Perfect. So then what I'm going to do with my bag is just fold down the edges like this. Really easy. And then add my frosting in there. The other thing you can do, I'm going to give you a little tip, is if you have 2 bags, these generally come in packs of 2 or 3, you can, I'll show you, put a bag on, you can put it like this and then add another bag so that you can swap out your tips. So that if you wanted to just quickly change the tip, you can do that. So I'll do that in another class to show you. But right now we're just going to do this. I want to get through everything. Here we go. Okay, so just push that right down in there as much as you can. And then you're just going to want to make sure, try to push it down without adding too much force so it comes out the other side, but you want to get rid of any air bubbles, any pockets of air. So you just have a smoother look and a more even design. I'll just do a few here to show you. Massage it a little bit down so that you get all, oopsie, your frosting. It's a little sticky mess, but it's all right. Just wash your hands. So where our cupcakes are there. All right, so I'll take one out to show you. So you can use a clip at the top if you're doing a lot and you just want to use a clip because it's going to move around a lot. You can use just one of those clips at the top and then just push, make sure this looks really good. I think we got all our air bubbles, and just use a little design. And this is honestly really simple. Just practice with whatever you have, and you can just design your little cupcakes. They're so pretty. I actually like that a little bit better. These designs are kind of pretty. So those are the cupcakes, and I just usually let them sit for a little bit so they kind of come together, the frosting comes together, as long as they can last in your kitchen without being eaten, and you'll have these amazing little cupcakes. So I'm going to put this aside now so we can get on to our peppermint bark. I'd like to show you, this is another really great gift. Sure, I have this. I'm just going to get a sip of water and clear out my mess here, and then show you this peppermint bark. This is great. You can make, I know I said snowflakes, but whatever you have in your kitchen, I think everything is over here. Whatever you have, you can use. So I have peppermint, in terms of the molds, or if you just want to make the bark. So I need to get my, let's see, my wax paper. I was going to show you, actually, I'll get a glass pan to show you. So if you have any little molds like this, these silicone molds are fantastic because when you go afterwards, I'll show you, when you've melted your chocolate and your candy, they will literally just pop right out. And these big guys, I made these and they're so much fun. They're just these great little molds. You can get them anywhere, Michael's or online, Walmart. They just pop right out and they make really, really pretty gifts as well. So, or you can make your normal bark. So I'm going to show you, I forgot my glass pan, I'm just gonna get little, let's see, or I think it's easier to show you here. I'll get one of my baking sheets. I think it's probably easier to see. Whoops, that's still hot. Okay. I need to heat up my chocolate here anyway, so I'm going to lay this out. And I'm just going to use one package of the white chocolate chips today, just to show you. And but if you're going to make these for gifts, you might want to go ahead and double it up, because it's such an easy process, and you may want more. I'll show you. Actually, I'll show you what the end product looks like, so you can kind of eyeball and see. This is pretty much what one bag will look like. Here are these great little, oops, these little snowflakes, and then the bark looks like this too. This is such a great gift, and these little guys are so pretty. So this is one bag plus the candy canes. So if you don't have a double broiler, sorry, you can just use two little pans like this. I actually find it easier. I have a double broiler, but I just thought I'd show you. What you're going to want to do is add some water into this lower pan, and then put your chocolate in the pan on top. And I'll explain why. One second. Get this hot water so it goes a little faster for us today. Okay, so just under where that top pan is going to sit like this. So this way the chocolate is not directly over the heat source, because it can scorch and it can dry out. So I'm going to turn this up, and you don't have to worry this way. The water underneath will just heat this pan, of course. I'm going to use this great, a good chocolate, Ghirardelli. You can use any kind you want. I've used it all. It all tastes really good. But if you use a little bit, if you're making gifts and you want something special, go ahead and use this. Although it doesn't really matter. It's generally a crowd pleaser, and no one's going to complain. But I do like this chocolate too. So go ahead and leave that for a minute. You need another spoon. And then you're going to need, I'll show you, about a small package of these candy canes like this, or the little peppermints and the wrappers. You can use either one. The only problem with those is you have to take these out of the wrapper, of course, anyway. So these are a little bit easier. You just snap them in half, take the wrapper off, and then I like to put the candy canes in a plastic baggie and seal it, and then wrap it with a towel, and then go ahead and take a mallet and just pound out your candy canes. Just make sure they're all crumbled up. You might get a little dust. I use the towel so that the baggie, I just wrap my big, large plastic Ziploc bag with the towel so that it doesn't break the bag. You might have a little dust seeping out, but it'll be fine. So I have my little bits. You can also find these sometimes at a store. You can find these little bits of peppermint. You can get those too. I kind of like sometimes the chocolate with a little piece of the peppermint or the candy cane. It's good. And if you like, you can add some mint flavor, some peppermint to the chocolate when it's melted, but you might not need it either. Sometimes I've used it, sometimes I don't. So it's up to you if you want to make it and test it. I'm just going to grab another spoon here. Never have enough spoons. Grab a few. And the good thing, this was already heated. So try to get this guy going. All right, I see bubbles. So you're just gonna want to make sure it's all blended, of course. And then I've laid out here just some wax paper. This burner's not hot. And like I said, if you want, you can just make the bark. And when this is all finished and melted, then you can just lay it out, or just scoop it into these molds that I have. These are pretty fun. And the other thing while we're waiting for this chocolate to melt is you can wrap these up. What I love about these kinds of gifts are you can make a couple of these, or one or two, and then just put them in like one of those cello bags and wrap it with a little ribbon. They make really nice gifts. So those are kind of fun, or boxes, whatever you have, little tins. So the chocolate this way, like I was saying, it will melt really nicely and evenly, because if you put chocolate over a direct heat source, like if you've worked with candy melts or chocolates, it tends to get a little bit dried out. And if that happens, if you forget, don't add water to it. It will seize up and your chocolate will be ruined. So you can use a little bit if you need to, like coconut oil, but this should be fine. If you do this method, you'll be totally fine. But if you forget and you happen to do the other, don't fret. There is a way to fix it, but just never add water. So this is a great little tip, especially if you don't have that double broiler. Okay, so I can hear it, it's going. And none of these take too long. This is, of course, I'm waiting for it to melt because I want to show you, but nothing takes too long. And there's a lot of great things you can do with this white chocolate. Other treats as well, but this is a really fun one. So it's starting to go. And you can just let that, I can hear it, the water start to boil. If it boils and the steam starts coming out, just of course turn it down, but it's not going to hurt your chocolate on top. So, and the last thing I want to show you is the toffee, but hopefully we will have time for that. If not, I'll just teach you how to get started in my little tips and we'll get going. So come on, chocolate, it's starting to melt. All right. Okay, so basically you're just going to melt this. I'm going to leave that for a minute. Add your candy canes. I used about, like I said, a little package. They have the bigger ones. You can judge how much you like, maybe like 8 candy canes, and then add it in. I'm going to get my, oh, I have a spatula right here. Okay, so it's going. Oopsie. Or those little peppermint candies too. That's kind of the hardest part, is just getting them out of the packaging, but it's not bad. If you have little hands at home who want something to do, it's a great little activity, as long as they don't eat them all first. Okay, so there's that steam. Just don't get yourself with the steam. Okay, but now it's really, now we are cooking. Okay, so just until it's just blended and there are no little chunks of the chocolate. You can also just use bars of chocolate. I mean, chocolate chips are meant to hold their shape, but this is not, they're melting. But you can use the bars of chocolate as well, whatever you want to do. This is just easy. Okay, so this is nice and smooth, didn't take too long. The watch pot, there, really nice and smooth. I'm just gonna turn that heat off because we still have the steam coming up. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and add my candy canes. And I can see if I wanna add all of that, or probably do. And just blend it in. Yeah, I think I will. All right, so I'll do a little of each to show you, get my molds. Okay, so it's just super, super easy. And it really is such a great gift. I've made this for years and people always, always love it. Okay, so I'll show you one of these guys. Just, actually, I do want that. I got rid of my spoon. Okay, I'm just going to, whoops. Great thing is you just plop it in. These guys are kind of, these are high, these snowflake molds, but you can do whatever size you want. I mean, you could do the entire thing. You're obviously going to let it cool first, but I'm going to probably do about halfway. It makes quite a bit of chocolate, but just make sure it's in all the little edges. like that. And then you'll have these really pretty snowflakes like I showed you. So I'll do 2 like that, and then the rest I'll put over here to make the bark. And the tiny snowflakes are so cute too, but these are great. Let's see, stick those guys in there. Make sure I get in every little nook and cranny. And then the rest of it, I will just smooth out on, I think you can see this, I hope. Let's see, I'll move this over. I don't know, that screen is kind of small. One day we will be in the same room. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna smooth this out and then let it cool. It's gonna take, I don't know, half an hour or so. If you put them in the molds, make sure that your chocolate is cool enough before you decide. If you wanna put it in the fridge just to harden it up a bit, that's okay, but make sure it's not hot. It's not still really warm or hot. So you just smooth this out. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's just bark and you're gonna break it up. That's the really nice part of this. And this is also a really great thing to do with kids because it doesn't have to be perfect and it's kind of nice. It's just a free form little project, great for kids to try with you. There, so just your thickness, at whatever thickness you want, and then just leave it to cool and break it up into little pieces like I showed you there. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that. So that's what that looks like. You can stick it in your fridge if you have, just try not to have anything that's too smelly in there like an onion because it will absorb the flavors. But if you just want to quickly firm it up, if you're making them for gifts and want to make sure, go ahead, or you can put it afterwards in a tin and it keeps really nicely as well. So let's see, we have a few minutes left. I don't know if we're going to be able to do all the toffee, but I really want to show you, just going to get this out of the way. I would like to show you at least getting started. And if you ever have questions, of course, you can contact me through my website, but I wanted to show you because this is another great little gift and super simple. So I'm going to tell you my tips for this, get all my ingredients. So this is my toffee candy, and I have a little messy in there because I buttered a dish about this size. If you use a cup of sugar and a cup of butter, you're going to want about an 8 by 8 inch, probably glass dish like this or a container like this to put it in. Then I have I like to use a heavy bottomed pot like this because it really conducts the heat better when you're making the toffee. You're going to want to start off, I don't think we have enough time because it takes about 15 minutes, but what you're going to do is add your cup of sugar and your cup of butter directly into the pot. And you are going to stir that in the beginning. You're going to stir it, just make sure that I like to soften the butter so that I know, or to have it at room temperature. I know that the butter and the sugar are going to melt really evenly from the beginning. When you're making candy, you just want to make sure that you start off slowly, make sure all the ingredients are incorporated evenly, and then you can turn up the heat to a medium high and constantly stir until it forms or turns into more of an amber color. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, but just go ahead and add your butter right in there and stir. So you don't want to turn it up too high because in the beginning, you want to make sure, go ahead and blend that all together. Go ahead and stir it at a nice low heat until it's blended. It can separate, the butter and the sugar will separate. So you just want to make sure you start off slowly and then you can crank it up once it's going. So what I have done is buttered this dish and added some chocolate, some grated chocolate. Again, I've used, this is not sponsored by, but any kind of decent chocolate, because you only have a few ingredients. I always feel like the golden rule is if you only have a few ingredients, try to get the best that you can. So it's a semi-sweet chocolate. Go ahead and grate it like with a cheese grater and sprinkle, it's probably about 1 bar for this, it is about a bar. Take half of it and grate it and put it on the bottom. The grating allows the chocolate to melt. When you put the toffee on top, the mixture is just going to melt the chocolate. And then when it's all cooled, or not cooled, when it's all mixed and it's the amber color, you're going to pour that directly onto the chocolate and then add the rest of your grated chocolate right on top. And if you want, you can add, at this point, you can do your chopped walnuts or pecans and go ahead and just sprinkle those, about a cup of those on the bottom if you want. And then just let it cool, probably about half an hour or so. It hardens up really quickly and then you're good to go. This is another really great, I'll show you the color too. This is another really great gift. I hope you can see this. It is so delicious. And the color's just, it's almost like making almond roca, or like I wanted to show you that color right there. So it's like, what is it, score bar? I mean, it's dangerously good. So so I hope you try this. It's super simple. It only takes about 15 minutes. When you get to the 15-minute mark, you'll see it. It'll boil and turn the amber color. You just turn it right out into your pan and you should have this great toffee. So I hope you get to try some of these treats at home and that you have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you so much, Caryn. That was wonderful. Those snowflakes are beautiful.
They they make great gifts too. Thank you.
I did have a question for you.
Yes.
Is it possible to melt chocolate in the microwave for bark?
Yes, you absolutely can. Yes, you can absolutely melt that in the microwave as well. That is totally fine. I just tend not to do the microwave, but yes, absolutely. It's kind of like if you're doing the Rice Krispie treats, you can melt the butter and and the marshmallows in there too. So for sure, if you want to save some time, then you don't have to worry about the double broiler and all that. So yes,
Yeah. Okay, but all
yes,
right.
doesn't
So
change it at all.
it
Yeah,
won't change the recipe. Okay,
no,
great.
not at
And
all.
someone shared Penzies Spices on Westport Avenue. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
thank you. I'm gonna check that out.
And I also wanted to let everyone know, can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to cook for us on January, I believe it's 18th, it's Tuesday,
18.
again at 11 a.m. I'm going to
Yes,
drop the registration right here in the chat for everybody. Can you tell us a little bit about your next class?
sure, absolutely. Well, I thought we should try out some appetizers, kind of change it up. I'm always looking for new ones and have a great array of recipes. So some caramelized onion dip and let's see, some bresaola or smoked salmon with a cream cheese basil. There's a little, there's a cream cheese basil kind of spread that you put on the inside. There's some wonderful appetizers you can really use for any occasion. So I'm going to be whipping up some of those, and yeah, you can do it for a game day or, something a little more fancy or special. And yeah, so we'll be making all that.
That sounds terrific. We'll see you then. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you. You too, Sam. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.